Hello and welcome to the Mixing Glass brought to you by Bardtenders. I'm your co-host, Michael Windsor, and I'm so glad to be back in your ear holes once again. Wouldn't you know it, we have another great episode for you tonight. But before we get any further, we have to introduce to you our host, the Florida man with a plan, Mr. Passion Apollo himself, Mr. Nobody Told You to Have a Family, Jonathan Mateer.
Wow, that joke just keeps ripping.
What do you mean?
God.
That's not a joke. I don't know what you're talking about, man.
You're
Nobody
right.
told you.
I'm so sorry I chose to have a family instead of a career, Mike. Look at me go. Man, this is not gonna die. I love it. To all of our listeners who are following along in our Dungeons and Dragons side of the podcast, it's a running theme. But that's reality, Mike. How are you?
So I'm good. With every episode and podcast recording that we do, I feel more and more like your family, John. So, I really feel invested in this moving forward.
When you're here, your family, Olive Garden. That's really what we're going for here.
Would you believe it if I told you that we have another great guest to interview tonight?
Roll for persuasion. See what you can
Oh,
do.
no, this is true. I don't have to persuade. It's just the facts of the matter. Because tonight we're going to be talking to Matan Steinfeld.
Hell
And
yeah.
like many people, like many young people before him with an underdeveloped frontal cortex, we've all been there, and questionable decision-making skills, Matan realized early on that a traditional corporate career did not suit his personality. Inspired heavily by his college life in New Orleans, he decided the world of booze, bars, and hospitality felt a lot more interesting than becoming another soulless finance bro. Pivoting away from that path, he started barbacking at a fancy bar and bottling at a local distillery before moving to New York City as a liquor sales rep representing brands under Diageo and Moët Hennessy. It was there that he fell in love with spirits, wine, cocktail culture, and the world of truly great bars and restaurants. Eventually, Matan found himself back in his hometown of Portland, Oregon, where he met the original founders of Bull in China. He immediately connected with their mission of making professional grade bar tools built specifically for bartenders and eventually purchased the company from them. Since taking over Bull in China, Matan has dedicated himself full time to designing and sourcing barware that balances durability, functionality, and unapologetic beauty. Whether it's solving common frustrations behind the bar or creating unnecessary luxurious versions of everyday tools, sorry, so close. He's constantly chasing ways to make great barware feel even better in the hand. Please welcome to the show, Matan Steinfeld.
Hello, hello.
Hey, how are we doing?
We're good. Thanks for that lovely intro. I love that. That's spot on.
I didn't mess up once, and John doesn't have to edit anything. It's great.
I don't have to edit a single thing. It was flawless. Who wrote that bio? It's so good.
Oh man.
Okay. All right.
Well, yeah.
Matan.
Yes,
Before
sir.
we get off to the races, because if I don't dial us in, we're gonna get off the rails really fast. So we like to do a little icebreaker. We call it roll for initiative. You've got a 20-sided die over there. So I need you to give it a roll.
Let's do this. Okay. I'm going for it right here. My digital dice over here. And rolling. Let's see what we got here. It looks like I got 3. Okay.
This is Mike's all-time favorite question. Get ready. This is all-time favorite. He loves this question more than any other one. Matan.
Here we go. I'm so ready.
How many squirrels could you take in a fight to the death? Now, you're standing in the middle of a field. The squirrels are coming at you. How many can you take? You only have what's on you right now. How many can you take with you? You're gonna lose. You're gonna lose it.
Yeah, no. Eventually, you do lose, and it's sooner than you think because those little teeth are pretty fast, and they get at you. So like you want to be like, oh yeah, like I got this, but I don't know. Okay, well let's see here. They probably cover my body, and it would be pretty fast from there. So how many squirrels surface area? I feel like this is the real question here, right? What's the surface area of my body, and how many squirrels does it take?
What's the air velocity of an airborne squirrel?
Wait, are these European squirrels or North American gray squirrels?
That's actually crazy important of a differentiation.
It's really important.
And also, I should add this detail in. Are we talking like right before hibernation time? Because those fat, slow ones, right before squirrel time, I can tell you, and I hate to go on this tangent here, my dog loves to chase squirrels. I know that's very unique in the world. The dogs probably
I've never heard that about dogs.
So Most dogs can't catch squirrels. My dog can catch squirrels. It's gory and
Ooh,
horrifying, actually.
it's terrifying.
It's not fun. Yeah, yeah. But I can tell you right now, it's way easier to catch those pre-winter squirrels than those lean ass,
Good to know.
springy, summery ones.
I
Right?
like that we've
So-
discovered that you are a like squirrel aficionado here. It's
I
like,
will say this is the most in-depth we've ever got into this question. I would say give them roll with advantage. We're talking about pre-winter, fall time, pre-hibernation squirrels.
Okay. Yeah, they'd still get you pretty good. And they're really trying to fatten up, and that's my poor body that they're going to use to get in there. I mean, I want to say it's going to be around 80 squirrels, and that's going to be
80.
it's not going to be immediate, it's you're going to be like, "Oh, I got this." And then they're all going to just start chomping on you, and it's going to go down faster than you think.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to pretend to be a tough guy. I think 80 squirrels are going to take me out.
That's
fair
pretty
enough.
good. This is coming from a squirrel expert too, Mike.
Yeah, fair. No, this is
Pretty
an
qualified source.
educated guess, at the least. So I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Yeah. How about for you, Mike? How many can you take today?
I've answered this question so many times, Matan.
Yeah, but how are you feeling today?
Oh
about it?
yeah.
Well,
So
well,
let me
it's
hear the thinking behind it, which is really
Well,
an important question, right? in
Well,
this
so you
interview.
can listen to our previous episodes for that, but actually very recently I've become a vegan, so it would be just one squirrel because I would just lay
Wow.
back
Is
and,
this
and let
actually
him have
true?
his way.
Am I just learning about this about
Yes,
you
no,
now?
I've just went vegan after I had a delicious beef spaghetti dinner, and yeah, the squirrels, I would let them have their way with me. So one squirrel is all it would
Wow.
really take,
Wow.
How
I
long
would
do you
hope
think
I would.
that would take? Is actually
I
another
hope
question
he
we
would
should
be.
ask
Yeah,
today.
I'd hope he'd be quick about it. Well, what's funny
I
too.
don't think
You want to.
would.
You get into it. So the squirrels are rodents, I believe. So they're very different. But like you think about a ferret, which is a carnivore, and what they do is they just grab the esophagus of their prey and they just choke them out. So I hope that's what he'd go
Wow.
for.
Who
Or maybe
knew
Yeah.
like
we had
maybe
a
burrow
squirrel
down.
expert and a ferret expert on the
maybe
podcast
like
tonight?
if he just burrowed down into my throat to where I couldn't breathe and I
Wow.
would die pretty quickly.
And
That
you
would be
hope, yeah,
that would be
that would
my
be the
ideal
hopeful fastest
situation.
way, and it doesn't sound that pleasant, but yeah, okay.
This is your fault,
Yeah.
John, for making me answer this question like 18 times at this point in time. So, what about you, John? How many squirrels are you taking this week?
I don't know if I'm doing the pre-hibernation squirrels. I'm getting in there. I don't feel as squirrely as Matan today, so I think
Terrible.
I'm probably at a solid like 53.
Yeah.
53. That's probably good.
53.
That's probably more accurate, honestly. I'm just
Like,
again, the whole surface area thing really threw me. I was trying to
You-
I've
cover
had a
myself
long
in
day,
squirrels.
Yeah.
honestly, after the adrenaline hits, you could snap squirrel necks pretty easily, but you're right. Eventually, they would overwhelm you. I think this is
Mhm.
it. We should actually put this meme up on the main feed. Like, how many squirrels are you feeling today? You know what I mean? Just like
Yeah.
gauge your general, like, how are you feeling today? Like,
Yeah.
Today's a
one
15 squirrel
squirrel.
day.
I think the most we've ever had is like 200 to 300, which I think is a little overestimating, to be
I don't
honest.
know.
Confident. Yeah.
I think
Yeah, very
when
confident.
Morgan was on the show, Dangerfield, I think he said like 1,000, and he was going to make nunchucks.
He had a plan. He was going to light the field on fire. There was strategy involved with
Yeah,
that.
he had a
I'll give that
lighter
one
on
to
him. It was a whole
Yeah.
thing. All right.
Okay, that's pretty
Let's
good.
get
Yeah.
it. Let's
All right.
get into the show. Let's do that instead
Okay.
of the
All
squirrel
right.
thing.
Enough about squirrels. We're here to talk about you, Matan. So let's jump into what we call the origin story, right? Everyone has had their first taste of the world of hospitality. What was yours? What drew you in? Kind of made you a lifer here in the industry. So what was that first gig?
Sure. And we kind of alluded to this just a little bit in that beautiful story that you started us off with. But, this young boy was going to school in New Orleans, and I had very few interests at the time, aside from like doing what kids do in New Orleans, which is basically drinking. And
Kids
then,
heard.
yeah, got it. Yeah. So, right. And so I was sitting there and I was taking my classes just like kids do in college, typically as well. All those like fun, finance classes and all the business school stuff. And meanwhile, like I needed a job. And so I just like went to a bar. And I don't know how this came about, but it was called Whiskey Blue. They still have them. This is the Gerber Group. So this is Cindy Crawford's husband. He like owns some bars around. And so they're all like very shishi, like high-end bars. It's no longer in New Orleans, but you'll have to believe me that it was there. So and so I got the first job you get, which is just a busser, just like cleaning up ash out of, by the way, you can smoke in bars in New Orleans at the time too. So I'm just like cleaning up ashtray. The rule was like, if you see two butts in an ashtray, it's time to make it move, get rid of that and replace it. So I'm just like walking around stocking and basically just like cleaning up garbage all day, prepping condiments, and just like learning all about like how it feels to cut citrus before shifts and realizing
So
that like you have way
did
more cuts
you
than you think.
did you know that that's what the job was before you took it?
No, I didn't know what that job was. I just didn't realize like really what that like the majority of the job was taking out garbage. Like that was such a huge part of the job. And it's like leaking everywhere and it's awkward. And like the dumpster was like so far away because it was this hotel. So just like walking and leaking with garbage, like
Yeah, you
so
can't have a
much of the
trash
job.
can in eyesight of the guests. You got to walk it all the way
Yeah,
two
no,
blocks
it's gotta be
away.
sexy. And then I would also another fun like highlight of that job was also like cleaning the women's bathroom during like while the place is open because like you have to like it gets pretty filthy pretty. I mean I had to clean the guys one too, but so I'm sitting there, I'm just like a bathroom attendant, not a bathroom attendant, that's not what I was. I was a janitor. And I was
There it
also
is.
an
Sanitation engineer.
yeah, exactly. And I was like the ashtray, guy, and I was the garbage guy. So that was my first taste. And for some reason, I was like, yes, please, may I have some more? This is delicious.
A masochist, gotcha.
Yeah. So somehow, and I really, I don't know how I convinced myself this, but I was like, I do not want to like make a ton of money in New York and like live that life. I want to be in this industry. This speaks to me right now. So like again, who knows what was going on in my poor underdeveloped brain, but like
Sure.
I was like, this is a good idea. I need to do this. And so what really started is like I was like, I want to start my own company. I want to start like a liquor company. Like how cool would that be, right?
So
And
busser to starting your own liquor company.
yeah, it's a natural transition. Yeah, it makes
That's
so much
huge.
sense.
Wait, I got to dig into this. There was nothing in between.
You're like, you went from that to that. All these things were just kind of like brewing in my head at the same time. And I'm just like, I was surrounded by alcohol when I was, doing like frat parties and stuff and just like being a kid. And then I went to work and I was surrounded by alcohol. And so like, it was just like on my mind. I was like, what would be cool? Like owning an alcohol company. Everybody loves booze, right? And like, that's what I told myself. And I was taking like business school and I was like, what if I just changed all my projects to school to starting a liquor company? And they were like, actually, yeah, we have like a huge entrepreneurship program here. So you could take like entrepreneurial management, you could take entrepreneurial accounting, you could do like business plan development. And so all these classes I was taking that I was gearing towards, again, finance, bro, New York. I was like, actually, I just want to like learn all this stuff too. And so
Honestly,
I
love that because there are so many people that go into college and don't know that they can use those classes to develop a business plan. It usually takes them to grad school or like till they go to school in like their late 20s or 30s or beyond. Like it's neat that you discovered that early because so many people, while they have that underdeveloped prefrontal cortex, aren't putting those things together. So like for you to take advantage of that, that's pretty huge.
Yeah, that was like in retrospect, I'm like, yeah, that was kind of smart, right? At the time, who knew what I knew? But there was this one piece of that, right? And it was like not one of my favorite classes. I had two different classes and they had a similar theme, and it was successful business owners, right? Coming into the class and just speaking. And every week it was a completely different business, completely different owner. And I was like enamored by this. I thought this was so cool. And they each had this awesome origin story, right? And it was always like the classic like poet's journey or whatever, the hero's journey, right? That's what I mean by that. So it's very poetic, right? And it was always this like, you have this blah blah job and it sucks and your life is lame and like what are you doing with yourself? And then you like have this moment where you want to change things around, and so you have this idea and you chase it and you struggle and everyone thinks you're stupid and you think you're stupid, and like you go through this like huge obstacle and then you overcome the beast and you come out the other side and you're happy and you're successful and lived happily ever after, right? And it's like, every time I heard this, I was like, my God, that's what I want to do. Like, this is it. And so again, I was like, it's going to be starting my own liquor company. This is going to be so cool and it's going to be great. And so that's what I'm going to do.
All right. So now I need to know what kind of liquor were you going to make? And did you have a name? I always love to pick people's brains on their early like concepts.
Yeah. So my idea was high-end rum, right? And not like what I would consider high-end rum nowadays, which is like dark, delicious, aged in different types of cask rum. It was like clear rum, right? And so at the time, I was like, well, there's like Cuervo, and then there's Patron. And I was like, and then there's like, I don't know, let's Smirnoff. Sorry, this is sell Diageo, so I feel bad saying this. There's Smirnoff, and then there was Grey Goose, right? This is like my understanding of the industry. And then I was like, so then there's Bacardi, and then there's like nothing that was like above that. And I was like, you need to have that there. I was like, it's so obvious. I'm like kind of a genius. Like, let's do this. And So like that was my idea. I was like, it's got to be high end rum. Like that was it. And so I was like, yeah, it's like all about like marketing, make it sexy. I was like, Grey Goose is in the limos. Like I'll just put it in limos. Like again, this is just like a child's brain like coming up with a business plan.
Yeah, a lot of clear rum drinkers on the rocks by
Mhm.
itself in limos.
Yeah, totally. It was gonna be great. But I was like, okay, well, I have to like learn how to like make rum, right? And so I'm in New Orleans and I just like look it up and there's a distillery and there's only like one distillery and it makes rum, like of all the things that could be out there. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like I want to learn how to make rum. And so I just like show up at their doorstep, basically just like cold call. And I was like, hey, I'm like doing a project for school. I want to learn like whatever I can about making rum. Like, would you humor that? Like, can we talk? And he was like, well, we could talk, but he's like, honestly, I need help bottling. So like we could talk, but you got to work too. And I was like,
there it is. Right? That's an entrepreneur.
Yeah. I was like,
he knew.
Yeah, he got me. And so like, and so the guy was great. He just was like, so here you go. And I would sit there and I would help them bottle for a few hours and they would pay me in a mix of like money and booze, like the rum that I just helped bottle, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, the dream of a college kid.
Yeah, so exactly. Good. And then he would just tell me about it the whole time, right? And so just to get an understanding, and you get to taste like the making of it. You get to taste the underlying spirit and like the underlying, they were doing this like kind of proprietary like honey is what they called it. And so it was this mix of like grade A molasses with blackstrap molasses, which is more classic. And it was like way more flavorful. And I got to like see it by side by side. And then they had samples of stuff. They like, now taste this next to it. So like this was like the slowest drinking I'd ever done at this age, right? Where you're like actually tasting, you know? It's like, okay. So that was like really like a cool start, right? And so another thing from the same classes I was taking, and even the professors from these classes, they kept saying this. They're like, one of the best ways to fail at a business is to go into an industry that you've never been in before, right? Like, and one of like the epitomes of this example is like someone who like has money for some reason, right? Maybe they sold a tech company or something like that, and they're like, I want to start a restaurant. I love good restaurants. I love going to good restaurants. I should start a restaurant. And the fair rate is like, I don't know, 99% on that. I mean, like, and so, you know, it's not having an understanding of the industry that you're getting into. And so that's like the most known one, but it's many industries, right? If like, what background do you have in this? How are you seeing the white space industry? What kind of network do you have in this space? Like, what kind of understanding do you have from the inside? So that really stuck with me. And I was like, okay, cool. Before I can start this company, I need a job in the liquor industry. But I didn't even know like what that looked like, right? So
I mean, you knew what bottling looked like, you know.
I knew what bottling and
busting
looked like.
I was gonna say, and busting ashtrays, and changing the
point,
toilet paper in a restroom.
Yeah, so I'd also upgraded to barbacking at this fancy bar at this
go.
point. So I was
There
like
you go.
moving on up in the world. Yeah,
crazy.
And so I wasn't quite at the bartender level for this place yet, but we also had like this bar on Bourbon Street that was very it was like this outdoor bar, and it was very simple bartending, but they basically, our fraternity at the time, I'd been in this fraternity at this point, they're like, oh, like we need someone from your fraternity, just fill in here whenever. And so I started working shifts, having no background as a bartender, might I add, just like on this spot on Bourbon Street. And it just got, I mean, everything on Bourbon Street gets so much traffic, it like, you know, it was just busy all the time. So had this spot, went there, and it was basically just like frozens, beer on tap, and then like 2 ingredient drinks, which I could handle, like rum and Coke. I was like, oh, I can make that. Like, that's cool. And so like, it was, you know, simple stuff like that, vodka and soda. I was like, I know how to do that too, actually. So, so
crazy.
that was
I got this.
So like, technically I was bartending, but like when I talk to bartenders nowadays, I'm like, no, you know so much better than me how to bartend. Like,
hey,
that
well,
is not
I'm going to push back on that, because handling volume is its own skill in and of itself. So I don't, you know, don't shortcut yourself on that. I don't think that's fair.
That is fair. I mean, it is not the same skill as like mixing a drink, but holy crap, like managing that, and like the mental management of like 4 drinks at once or 5 drinks at once, and like getting to each person. But there is something to that for sure. Yeah. So I'll give you that. So I'm bussing, I'm barbacking, I'm bartending, I'm bottling, right? And so I'm studying to do all this stuff, and I'm like, man, I like, how to get in the liquor industry? Like, what else is there? And so so that takes us to, I'm graduating college. I'll give you a very short interval. I moved back to Portland, Oregon, which is where I was from before this, for just a stint to work for a micro distillery at the time, from a beer company called Rogue Brewery. They're kind of big for a small beer, right? Like for a micro brewery, they're pretty big.
Well, especially what year is that?
I mean, this is 2006 or 7,
That's
right?
pretty
So
big,
like,
right? Like microbrews
yeah,
are just starting to like
microbrews
get
were
their
like pretty
footing.
hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like all the distilleries weren't really there. And I had met the owner at some point back when I was in Portland. And I just called up Jack, the owner, and I was like, I want to start a liquor company. I want to start a rum company. And he's like, well, I make rum. And I was like, I want to learn how to, right? Like, how can you do it? And he basically was like, well, listen, do you want to work for me? Like, we'll call it an internship. You work in there, you sit there and you start working with my distillers, and you'll go out with my sales guy, and you'll just like see what it is to do
You
this.
can come. You can
And
bottle all my beers.
yeah,
Jump
yeah. He's
right
like, you can
back
work for
in, full
me.
circle, baby.
Yeah. And he was like, what do you think that's worth to you? I was like, in my head, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And I was like, I don't know, like $10 an hour. And he just like smirks and he goes, sold. And in his head, he's like,
Oh,
fool.
that's when you
Yeah.
realized. Yep,
Yeah.
undersold
He's like,
yourself.
fool. But I was like, oh, wow, look at this. I got this thing. So I moved back for a few months to go like learn how to do more distilling. I started to go out and do like little like local sales runs with his rep. And I was like, okay, like I didn't know this world exists. And then of course this comes along too. He's like, hey, I actually need help in the restaurant downstairs, because it was like a distillery upstairs in this little like mezzanine, and then it was like a restaurant. And he's like, could you like do some of that too? And I was like, all right. He's like, you'll make the money and you'll get tips too. And I was like, well, now we're talking too.
It's
So
way
all of a
better than my
sudden,
$10 an hour.
yeah, exactly. To be fair, I was living at my parents' house, so we're talking pure profit at
Oh,
this point
Yeah, there
too.
that's
you go.
pretty good.
Yeah, like while I was like figuring out what to do after college. And so I became a server too, right? So I was like, okay, great. So this is it. And another job that like I didn't realize what goes into being a server. So that was really educational as well. Back to like the skill of being a bartender and handling like volume. There's definitely a skill to handling both people and volume and 6 people at a table and people changing their
Yeah.
mind and handling 5 tables at once and like thinking you memorized everything and then realizing like you were sorely disappointed and like maybe you
Mhm.
should write things down sometimes too. Whatever
Mhm.
goes with that too. And so I was serving, I was doing this. So, I'm getting like a bunch of little jobs in like rapid fire at this point. Um, and so now let me cut ahead. So I had a girlfriend at the time who lived in New York, like technically New Jersey, right over the river. And so she's in Fort Lee, New Jersey. And so she was just a year younger than me. I just graduated college, and she was still in college, but she was home for the summer. So I was like, hey, let me come visit you, right? And
I was
so
gonna say that's a pretty
uh,
long distance relationship, Portland,
yeah.
Portland to New York.
Well, I don't want to cut ahead, but I'm not with her anymore. But I wasn't ready
Spoiler
to
alert.
break. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, cool. Let me come visit. And so I go to New York, I visit her, and she's got some internship in the city, and I'm just like, oh, that's so cool. Like I still had my dreams of living in New York. Like it wasn't gonna be a finance bro, but I was still like, but New York's really cool though, right? And so I just like was like, you go to work. I'm just going to kill time for the day, right? And so I'm just going to walk around the city, and I'm just going to just like entertain myself like a tourist, and I'll meet you at 5 or whatever time it is your internship's over, and we'll go back to your house. And so I go out into the city, right? And I stumble across, and again, all this is like pretty dated information. It's 2007, right? But my other job back in the day was like I'd sold a bunch of stuff. I've always been in sales, and so I've been working at a local gym in Portland too, like a summer or two ago at 24 Hour Fitness. This is now a much bigger gym chain,
Sure.
but so I've been working at the local gym, and I'd heard of this one called Equinox, and I was like, oh, I've heard of Equinox. This is supposed to be like the coolest gym where like all the coolest people go, and the hotties and the celebrity, whoever it was. Like I was like, whoa, this is like cool.
Mhm.
And so as I'm just killing the day, I was like, I'm just gonna walk in here and like take a tour of the gym, right? And so I walk into
That's
this
what I
gym.
do when I go to New York. I was like, let's
Totally normal, totally
get a
normal
tour of
activity.
this gym.
Yeah, I know it sounds crazy
Statue
now,
of
but I was
Liberty.
like,
What's
whoa,
that?
yeah, no, yeah, who needs it? Gym time, baby. So I walk into this gym, and immediately the guy starts trying to sell me a gym membership as a good gym, sales guy would do. Having come from the other side of this, I was like, I know what you're doing. I'm gonna like cut you off at like each thing you're trying to do, because it's like, where do you live? Well, I just want to know if I could say the gym membership. If I say I'm visiting from out of town, I'm already going to shut him down. Okay.
Yeah, it's not
Well,
gonna
we
work.
start talking more though, but he's a pretty nice guy, and he's like asking me a lot of questions, and I'm just like, honestly, I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to get a job in the liquor industry, and I don't know how to get in there, but I've been studying it in school, and like I'm really into it. And he's like, "Oh, that's so interesting. Like, what company you look at?" And he's asking me all these questions, and I'm like, "Well, I don't know, like one of the big ones." And I'd started researching some of these corporate names, and like William Grant or Brown Foreman or Diageo. And he was like, oh yeah, like that's great stuff, whatever. We're talking more and more. And I was like, man, this guy knows a lot about the liquor industry, like way too much about the liquor
Yeah, I'm
industry to
just
be.
casually saying these random company names and it's
Mhm.
registering. It's
What do you
not
mean?
just
This is what are you talking about? This is Equinox, man. They are
Yeah,
prepared
That's
for their
right. They're
possible
prepared for
clients,
everything.
dude. All right.
yeah,
What was
he's
I
ready for
thinking?
this. That's that level of service that we're talking about here.
Exactly.
So I'm like very confused because he's just so knowledgeable. And then finally we're getting towards the end of the tour. I was like, listen, if I move to New York, like I would love to buy a gym member from you, but like first things first, I need to figure out like what the jobs are in the liquor industry. And he's like, well, my wife works for Diageo and like
Wow.
sales
There
for
it
New
is.
York.
Wild.
And I was like, what? I was like, that's insane. Like, can I just talk to her? Like, I just want to talk to her right now, please. Oh, because the office was like, I don't know, 2 avenues away. And I was like, this is way too kismet. Like, holy
Yeah,
crap. Can I?
serendipitous. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, please talk to your wife. And he was like, well,
It doesn't
absolutely, you
always
could.
work like that.
Yeah. But sometimes, you gotta. I've also, by the way, always been kind of like a tenacious salesperson and like always ready to just like force some luck on the situation. And so I guess I should add this in as we're telling this story. And so he basically says, well, I would love for you to meet my wife, but she's out in the Hamptons, right? And I was like, oh, that's too bad. He's like, yeah, actually, Diageo sponsored this mega mansion. They do it every summer. It's probably like the sickest party you've ever heard of. They get different people every single weekend, and like they'll do like a fashion show with high-end brands. It's an open bar with like, top shelf liquor. And he's like describing this thing to a 21-year-old child. And I'm like, oh my God, it's like the coolest thing I've ever heard in my short life. And so I was like, hey, sounds crazy, but I'm going to be in the Hamptons tomorrow. Maybe I could meet your wife at this party you just described in detail and like
Were
talk
you
to her
actually
then.
going to be in the Hamptons or are
And
you
so,
going?
so no, believe it or not, my girlfriend's family was going to the Hamptons, and I was like, well, then I guess I'm kind of sort of going to be there. Granted, I have no idea the geography of the Hamptons at the time, so they. I know now because I've worked in New York for a very long time. Like we were probably an hour and a half away from where they were, like all the way towards Montauk, and this party was in West Hampton, like totally different. But he was like, I guess, and I was like, well,
Yeah,
why don't you
I
give me
know
your
that.
number?
Yeah, that's a really big
Yeah,
ask for some guy that
called
just walked
huge
in up on
ask.
Called his
the street.
bluff. And he's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
What a thing.
sure.
And like I was like, oh, like I guess I'll take your number. And I was like fully assuming it was a fake number because like obviously this is going to be a fake phone number because like what the heck. But he gives me his real phone number, which is like crazy in itself. And so sure enough, I like call him up, coordinate with his wife, and meet them at this like amazing mansion in the Hamptons. I've never seen anything like this before. It's like you get met by like a golf cart at the bottom of the driveway, and it like valets you up the winding driveway to this house where they have like a pool in the backyard where there's like a plexiglass like runway over it where there's a swimsuit like model like show going on like across it. I was just like, what is going on? Oh my goodness. So I thought that was very cool. So meanwhile, and again, I'm sorry, we're going deep into this origin story. I
This
didn't
is
mean
great.
to marinate for so long
Are
onto
you
this.
kidding?
I was
We
gonna
love
say,
good
it-
stories.
Yeah, well, and I was
Okay.
gonna say this is why they tell you to go to the gym. It's making sense.
This is it. This is what they're talking about.
You never know when you'll get a guy's wife's phone number
Yeah. Oh,
and get a
man.
job.
And get a job. That's where we were going with that. Yeah. So I meet, his wife, Jenny, and I talked to her for a while and I was like, so can I like work with you or something? And she's like, so I work for the #1 liquor company in the world and the #1 market in the country. Absolutely not. You have no relevant experience whatsoever. Like, why would you even think that? She didn't say it quite that way, but she was super nice. But she was just like, oh, like, no way at all. She's like, maybe I get you a job in like Kansas or like somewhere else.
Hey, whoa, chill,
Hey,
dude.
whoa,
Okay.
whoa.
You got great beaches there.
Yeah, great. The beaches of Kansas. So, oh man. But she's like, actually, I used to work for the distributor here, and like, it sounds like you have some sales background. Like, I'll put you in touch with my old boss, and I'm like, okay, I'll follow the lead. Like, let's keep going. And so, sure enough, I follow the lead and I call up her old boss, this guy, John. Again, I have no idea who this is. I just emailed him as soon as I'm like back home. And this one I'm back in Portland, Oregon, by the way. Like, visited
was gonna
my
say.
girlfriend. Yeah. And so
All right, hold on. I got another follow-up question because this is great.
Okay.
So you're in like Montauk area. You're an hour and a
Yeah.
half away. What did your girlfriend at the time think when you're going to drive an hour
Yeah,
and a half?
go to
the
meet
other
some
side
other
of the family?
man's wife to go to this
Was
exclusive
her
party.
family like, yeah, take the car?
I guess. So my girlfriend came with me. Let's say that I got a plus
Okay,
one.
there you
Okay,
go.
so I
There
didn't
you
just
go.
like
She
make
got
her
a pool
give me a
party out of
ride.
it.
That actually
Yeah, I didn't,
probably
like,
helps out a
yeah.
lot, especially when you're going to meet another man's wife.
meet
You
another
go,
man's wife,
This is
yeah.
my girlfriend. I promise I'm just here for the
Yeah.
Diageo. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So that,
All
that
right.
I hope that answers most of that question actually.
All right,
So,
I had to follow up. Continue.
yeah, very, very good.
Back in Portland.
So yeah, so I call up this guy John, and so having no idea like who this is or what this is, I get a immediate response from his secretary being like, "Sure, when would you like to meet John?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, I didn't expect like that to happen that way." So I was like, and I like looked at the calendar and like I was like, I just picked a date like 2 weeks out. I was like, how does like Wednesday the whatever if work for you? I think it was August. Um, and so she was like, sure, sounds good. John looks forward to seeing you then. I was like, oh crap. So like immediately buy a plane ticket, immediately call up my girlfriend. I was like, hey,
By the
good
way, I'm coming
news.
again to visit.
I'm coming back to you. Also, can you give me a ride to Astoria, Queens from Jersey? She's like,
Oh
what?
my
I was like, yeah.
God.
So go back out there and I meet this guy John. I don't realize John's like the boss's boss. He runs this whole division for the distributor and all the Diageo and Moët Hennessy. They have like their own sort of like distributor within the distributor. And so like luckily I'd been doing so much homework. I'd been like reading up on Diageo and Moët Hennessy. Like this is part of what I was like really getting deep into for all my reading. So I kind of knew more than like the average bloke off the street,
Mhm.
And so we start talking and he's like, listen, I'm going to introduce you to someone who I think you should talk to. I'm like, all right, sure. Kind of like how I'm letting you guys guide me wherever. I was like, okay, sure, whatever you say. Like, I'll go there. And so he takes me to essentially someone below him, which again, I don't know any of this. I just know I'm talking to this guy Isaac next. And so Isaac is like a lot less like nice than the John guy was. John was all about the flattery and he was like, hey, like this is the lifestyle. What do you like, the Yankees? We got tickets to the Yankees. What do you like? Did you like nice dinners? We go to this. You like steak? He's trying to like show me like the
immaculate soft skills. This guy is
Yeah.
like all over
Isaac.
it, schmoozing,
Yeah.
talking to the high-end clients, and you.
Yeah, he's that guy, right? Isaac is like, why do you think you should work for this place? Why would you qualify to do this? Look at how young you are. Like, why should you work for me? And he's just sitting there, and he's just like railing into me. And I'm just like, I'm just responding as best I can because I was like, oh okay, this is why. I mean, I'm really into this. And I'm dropping knowledge. And I remember he had this one line that like still sticks to me today because so he's asking me, he's like, so Moët Hennessy owns Belvedere, right? And he's like, let's say someone's using Grey Goose and you want to give us to drink Belvedere. Like, what are you going to tell them, right? And I was like, well, I mean, really, I'm going to make them try it. I think they should, the taste test alone should be the difference. So I was like, Grey Goose is made from winter wheat, but Belvedere is made from 100% Dankowski Golden Rye, which I just read like an hour before I walked into this interview, right?
Serendipity
Classic
again.
cram
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you drop 100% Dankowski Golden Rye into an interview, and like the eyes are gonna pop for a second. He's gonna be like, "What did that kid just say?" Like, what? And so I saw his whole demeanor just changed after like that little line right there, and all of a sudden, like everything started changing, and he's like, "Okay, wow," and we just kept talking, but like he was nice, and he was like, "Okay, so here's the deal, like." We just happen to have an opening right now. Like someone had just left within the last couple weeks. And so the way it is in like this liquor distribution world in New York, it's 1 in, 1 out, right? It's like all these territories are spoken for. So you can't just be like, hey, you're fully qualified. I want to hire you. It's like, no. Someone has to leave and then you can come in and take their spot. So it just so happened that like this spot happens to be open. And he's like, when can you start? And at this point, again, I'm just going to make up a date. I'm like, do you want me to start in, I don't know, 2 weeks? Does that work for you?
I love the 2-week thing because it's not like, oh, I can start tomorrow. It's like, oh, let me check my calendar. All right. Probably a couple weeks from now,
I'm not trying to get burnt. I was thinking about the airfare too. I was like, oh man, I don't know. Like if
I gotta find a place
is
to
that less than
live.
airfare?
Like...
Yeah, I gotta do all this stuff, right? And so that was my mindset. And he was like, okay, well, I can't say you got the job because you have to pass like the background check and like, the piss test to make sure, you're not high as heck.
But good, you got 2 weeks at least,
Exactly. I got 2 weeks to train that thing, right? But he's like, yeah, but you don't have the job, but you got the job. Congratulations. And I was like, whoa,
Nice.
okay, cool. Like I'm moving to New York. So that's really what got things started. And so, I mean, again, I immediately flew back to Portland, packed up all my stuff, flew right back to New York with a one-way ticket, started like crashing on my friends' couches, found a Craigslist. People don't still use that, do they? Found a Craigslist
Not for
listing
what
in the
you
East
used it
Village.
for then, but
Yeah, for that.
Oh no.
Yeah. And so, but I just like went in just like head first into New York. And I was again the youngest person because like most people take a much longer path to realize that there's like these like sales jobs in New York. Most people come from like years and years of experience. They're in the restaurant world. They sometimes fall down the path of like going from bartending to bar managing, and they're like, maybe this will be better. And then they're like, oh, maybe this isn't
I
better.
hate
Like, what else
spreadsheets,
is there?
not for
Yeah,
me.
they're like, wait a second. Like, this is all the things I love about bartending. I'm doing none of those things now. And so usually, like everyone I worked with, they were all like ex like beverage directors, restaurant managers, all that kind of stuff. And I was a kid who had just graduated college like 3 months ago, about a decade younger than like almost everyone. And then it just went up from there. And so, but I was so like excited, and I didn't know how to not work. Right. I was just like, I don't have any, like obligations. I don't have a family yet. I'm just a kid.
Oh
I'm just
yeah,
gonna
they
like,
use you for
yeah.
$10 an hour, whatever.
Well,
Yeah.
whatever they
and
need.
I
Way
mean,
more than that.
I mean
Yeah.
this is nothing but a compliment, but you're like a dog chasing a car. You know what I mean? You're just
Yeah.
like, oh, there go, oh, there's another one.
Yeah, sure.
You just want to get your teeth around the mud flap, and you'll be happy.
Exactly. So I just was like that. I didn't even like know to be frustrated when like things were hard because like I didn't know any better because like everything was new and exciting to me, right? So like the first year or two for most people in that job is pretty brutal because like people in New York are not very nice, especially when you don't know them. And so like the amount of essentially like doors slammed in your face, like the equivalent of that, just the amount of rejection that like you have to face, the amount of like breaking through people's walls before they like essentially become friends, and you get really close to the people you work with and your clients. But like before that first year is rough, is really rough. But again, I didn't know any better. I was just like, cool, okay, I'll try again later. Like, all right, let's just keep on going.
So let me ask you this: did you get to the distillery?
Like, did I start a distillery?
Did you ever get into that process, or did
Oh,
it go from
absolutely
Diageo?
not.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So what I learned is like, did you know that most liquor brands fail? Like overwhelmingly, most liquor brands fail. It's like restaurant percentage wise, like it's like 99% of it. And so like there were so many brands that I helped like launch, and I'm like, Diageo is like one of the richest companies on the planet. They have like $10 million launch budgets for like a random brand you've never heard of before or more. And like that can still fail. And I was like, what right would I have to think that like a kid with no idea what they're doing would like ever stand a chance? And so luckily I didn't do that because I'm sure I would have lost whatever investor's money.
I don't know, man. With your tenacity, I would not be surprised if you would have made it. To be honest with you, I say that sincerely.
Thank you. Yeah. And who knows? I mean, you really might be like, who knows? But I never got to it. I was pretty intimidated by the idea of it. And at the same time, I'd been growing like really knowledgeable in the spirits world. And so I loved it. I treated it like school too. So I was both like working pretty hard, but also just like eating knowledge. I like couldn't get enough. I was like so driven by it that I just like couldn't get it. And when you're in New York, like basically the top market in the country and probably one of the top in the world, right? So and you're working for these brands where you have like these incredible brands with these incredible stories, you've got every ambassador, every winemaker, because they were selling wine at the time too. So I never even knew anything about wine. So I got like a full proper education on wine. They ended up offering like free, like from the distributor, like WSET level classes. And I just started taking all of them. Right. So I ended up going up to like WSET level 3, which like is like unnecessary knowledge on wine, but like I just loved it, so I just couldn't get enough. Even now, like I don't know, I might like wine more than spirits. Like it depends on the day. I probably do actually, but
I find that most people in the hospitality industry become mood drinkers at some point in their life.
Yeah,
you're exposed to
right?
so much stuff. Like,
right? How could you say like what your actual favorite is? It's like it just depends on so much. So yes, you have these opportunities where you have like, I mean, Moët Hennessy owns like the nicest champagnes, like some of the biggest, nicest, oldest champagne houses in the world, right? So it's not just Moët and Hennessy. It's like Veuve Clicquot, and then there's Dom Perignon, and then there's like Ruinart, which is really tasty, and then there's Krug, which is like one of my favorites. So like, but I didn't know any of this stuff, and so now like you're sitting there and it's 10 in the morning on a Friday, and you've got the international like ambassador for Krug coming in, and you've got a pyramid in front of you, which is a tasting of the entire Krug lineup, plus the vintage stuff, plus the rare like single vineyard stuff you've never even seen in your life, and you're like, okay, well, obviously I'm not going to spit this out. This is ridiculous. I was also like a kid. I was like, I'm just going to drink all this. So
Sometimes you
like
just have to enjoy it. Like you
yeah.
just have to. You can't spit everything. Like,
Right. And
it's an
like,
Yeah,
insult. It's an
put that
insult.
on a you put that on a t-shirt, John.
Like, yeah, right. Well, I don't know, someone gives you like a 50-year Scotch or like a superior age like cognac, and you're like, I feel guilty sometimes. Like
yeah,
I can't
I'm
spit
with you.
this. Like they
Yeah.
worked so hard. Like this was put on the ground when my dad was born. Like
Yeah.
I gotta try this.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm with you. And so speaking of like we had those cognac tastings, right? And you have to like this is the making of like what goes into the Hennessy blend from the cellars that no one will actually ever taste because it's like these still parcels from like you said 50 100 years ago and then the Scotch portfolio again. Diageo owns so many things. Like now single malts are very cool, but like at the time it was like Johnny Walker was the boss and they're like here's all these distilleries that we own that we both sell as single malts and they go into these different Johnny Walker blends. And so you're understanding like the makeup of like all these different scotches. And it's just like, oh my God, so fun. And you're getting like the Masters of Whiskey. I don't know if you remember these. They were called Masters of Whiskey. It was a whole program that they had and they were awesome. They were like the most knowledgeable people about Scotch really in the world, right?
and all just entertaining and so kind
And so entertaining.
nice. Like
yeah.
true storytellers. Like
I know they were so fun. And so like learning from the masters of whiskey like about Scotch and then having Tom Bullitt at the time was just launching this this Bullitt thing and like having that go on, right? And then I'm trying to think of all these other like really fun things that just happened during that time. But and then going on trips, right? And so they're taking you to tequila, and you're going to Italy and Napa and like Ireland back in the day when they owned like Bushmills and they still own Guinness and like Bailey's, and you're like going to the farm with the little calves, which is also pure storytelling. But like, what a great time to like.
it's a story, but it sells.
Yeah.
Part of the game. All right.
So yeah, so all that's happening. Yeah, sorry. But the point is like I got so into this stuff. I was like, this is the world I need to be in for the rest of my career. This is what got me. So yes, let's go on.
We can talk for 3 hours and just keep telling amazing stories and having a good time. But I know at some point you did leave Diageo and you made the jump over to Bull in China. So why did you leave and what drew you over to Bull in China?
Yeah, this is great. Let's get back on. So at the time, I had moved to Portland again, which I never thought I'd move back to. But a job came up. Diageo was launching this new program, this Diageo Reserve program. And it was basically like a half brand ambassador, half like sales manager. And so it was basically like, you got to be like a really good salesperson and you got to be like really obsessed with knowledge and storytelling. And I was like, well, that's like my two favorite parts of the job, right? And it was
I know a guy. It's me.
I was like, oh my God. And this is like 10 years into me doing this, right? And so I'm like, oh, I kind of know stuff now. And so I was told, and they were like, not only that, it's only the reserve portfolio, right? So it's like, forget like launching new Smirnoff flavors, which was like a big part of what you had to do when you're like the liquor rep back in New York. It was like just the fun stuff, just the best stuff in the Diageo like portfolio, right? And I was like, this is so cool. So I'm back in Portland. I'm doing this job. Almost had forgotten that like at some point I still wanted to start a company in the liquor industry. And that's when I met the original founders of Bull in China, right? And so they each kind of taken on different roles. They're all either ex-bartenders or current bartenders or whatever it was. And so I started working with them and learning about their brand. And I was like, this is so cool. And all of a sudden it all clicked to me. And I was like, Matan, this is what you said you wanted to do. You've been looking for the white space because again, I thought starting a liquor company was not the actual answer for me, but like there was something in the liquor world that I just like needed to do, wanted to do, but I couldn't figure out what it was. Like, where is there a benefit, right? And so I heard about Bull in China and, I was really nervous about it. And I'd been talking to them and I was like, this is going to sound so crazy, but would you ever want to sell Bull in China? And they were just like, oh my God, yes. We'd be more than happy to.
Like, is that a good thing? Someone's that excited? No, this is great. I love this.
Now that I'm a little deeper now, I can see where I can see I see now something I didn't notice at first. But they were kind of each moved on in their own direction, right? Like one had moved on to Smith Tea, which is a really cool tea company, and so head of marketing there. One had just gotten to this dream like director of ops job for this like up and coming restaurant, like local restaurant group or hotel restaurant group here. The other one I had met and I'd gotten him a job at Southern, the distributor, and him and I were working together too. So these three guys, two guys and a girl, they were all just like, oh, we're good. Like we did our thing. We tried it. We did it for a few years. More than happy to sell you this company. And so I was like, all right, I'm in. Like, let's do this. So I bought the company, and I was like, cool. Now what? And I had no idea. Like, so it wasn't like there was like a bunch of sales going on. Like it already kind of, like they'd all gone their different ways. They weren't actively selling anything, right? And so I essentially bought like a name, which I thought was so funny, which I didn't realize how many people like don't get the joke, right? So that's another thing I learned much later on.
It's such a great name.
I thought so too. Like half the reason I bought it, I was like, that's so good. Like how funny is this? Did not know. But so half of what I just bought was a name. I bought a website, and I bought an idea of just like these bartenders wanted to make gear for bartenders because they were sick and tired of just like trash gear, right? And so like, they came up during this time when it was just they're basically like the renaissance of cocktail culture in general was just sort of coming back. Portland was one of the first places to really embrace this, like one of the bringer backers of the cocktail world. And so like they were doing all this, but like the equipment itself was like the last thing to adapt to this change, right? Like fresh citrus was like a really big deal. Like that was an important.
It was one
change,
of the most massive jumps that we had.
Yeah, like that's a huge one, right? And just understanding like classic cocktails are classic for a reason, and like bringing back some of these great recipes, fresh citrus, like these are pretty fundamental shifts. But like bar equipment is like the fourth afterthought behind all this stuff, right? And so they were just like they were tired of just like garbage stuff that like falls apart and like the glass shatters. It's enough to make anyone feel like a bull in a china shop, right? So
I get it now.
Oh God, Mike!
I'm kidding. I knew it. Come on,
here we
dude.
go.
Give me a break.
So I thought that was so cool. And so that concept was really cool. And then they were doing something else that was like truly one of a kind. Because by the time I came along, Cocktail Kingdom was rocking and rolling. But at the time, it was rocking and rolling, right? Barfly was just getting started too, another huge player now. But the one thing they were doing that no one else was doing is they were in Portland where there's all these like glass blowers. And so they were like, we need to make our own mixing glass from scratch and like, like a one-piece mixing glass, right? And so just to get in the technical part of this, the weakest part in like a glass or like a jar is when you make it from a machine and you have this giant seam down the middle. It's two pieces and you put it together like this. And there's like this essentially that whole thing is both a weakness and also like for stirring, like it stops your stir. It like, you're getting stuck on that too. So it's this friction point. It's messing with your stir, and it's a weak spot in the glass. So they were all about making this like beautiful, like locally made thing. And I saw this glass and I fell in love with it. I wish I had one. Yeah, I might have one nearby. But basically what they were doing is it was like this crystaled, awesome effect that you get on the glass from the way they were doing it. And I was like, these are so one of a kind. It looks like a lava flow, right? I thought it was so cool. So that was another thing that I bought. I bought the mold for this mixing glass. So I immediately bought this company from them. They were like, thank you, like happy to get rid of it. I was like, oh my God, thank you. So cool. And then I had to completely redo the website. So the website that I bought was, like whatever. I got the mold and then I went to the shop where they were making it and they go, hey, we just hired someone who's our director of ops who did analysis on all our stuff. We've been undercharging you since the get-go. We're no longer going to make this for you. So you don't have a mixing glass anymore either.
Whoa.
And I was like, oh no. And then I was like, okay, so what do I have? And basically a whole lot of nothing is what I had.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, cool. Like, I guess I'll just figure it out from here. And that was the start. Right?
And that's when you learn to start blowing glass. Gotcha.
Yeah. Like that was the first of so many just like kicks in the junk where I was just like, oh, so this is being a small business owner. It's just like constantly people taking turns just like kicking you right between the legs and be like, oh, okay, got it. Cool. Thank you. May I have another? Like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So
and then customers complaining about how expensive your product is. Yeah.
Don't forget that part. That's really key. So I'm trying to figure out all this stuff, and it turns out like all these years I've been developing, learning all these really valuable skills and all this minutia about like the difference in stills and like what makes a different agave products different and why like mezcal is so different than tequila and like bacanora and sotol, like all this like stuff that's so niche, right? And then all of a sudden I'm sitting here and I don't know I get on a call with some like market agency and I don't know the first thing about what they're talking about. Like I don't know a single acronym they're using. And I'm just like, oh no, like what have I done?
Not the alphabet soup.
Oh no. Oh God. So like that was it. And so I just like began to start just like trying to figure out what's going on. Now, I should note that I got this this is happening right as COVID is happening. Okay. So I'm buying that right before COVID. I was like signing the dotted line. I was like, cool, I'm gonna like own this company now. And
The
then
future looks bright.
yeah, I was like,
Nothing could go wrong.
yeah. Wow. And so this is all going on. And so then COVID starts hitting. And so I still have my day job at the time, right? Like I was kind of like trying to figure out how to do both and whatever. The day job sort of disappeared. I was like, oh, well, that's not cool. But at the same time, people were all sitting at home, bored off their mind, basically drinking all
Yeah,
day.
stimulus checks in hand. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And there's like, what do I do with my time? So out of nowhere, this like website that I didn't even know worked, like didn't even know the website functioned, started getting like an order. I was like, ding. And I was like, what the heck? What? Do I have to like mail that? I was like, how do you mail that? And I had to like buy like shipping labels and like boxes and stuff because I had none of this stuff. And so it was like a whole lesson in just like packing boxes and being like my own little fulfillment. So I like turned my like house into this like little fulfillment shop. And so like it started like, clicking and clicking and clicking. And I was like, oh man. And it went from like one a week to like two a week to like every other day I get an order to like a couple orders a day. And I was like, man, like this is happening. And at the same time, like my day job was basically they gave us a couple months and they're like, hey, we got to lay like so many people off and we're getting rid of any like markets that aren't like key markets. Oregon was not a key market. And it wasn't like even a harsh thing. They're like, you understand this
is just the way the world is.
Yeah. They're like, do you want to work in Texas or New York or California?
Kansas?
I mean, Kansas, there's some beautiful places out there, right?
Huge market there.
Yeah.
Shut up.
But it was really like, do you want to move to Texas or Florida? Or like just, there was like the big five sort of markets. And I was like, honestly, like I've been pretty transparent with you guys that I want to start this company. I think I'm just going to have to give it a shot. And like, if I'm wrong, like, please take my call when I ask you for a job, because that might happen in 6 months. And I might say, I've made a huge mistake. Please help me. And so they were like, totally understand, like, wish you the best. And so we left on great terms. And I just like started just chasing, just being a full-time bull in China person. So that's what it's been since then. We've come a pretty long way from me just like sitting in my house, just like basically like buying stuff wholesale, trying to figure out what I'm doing, or like trying to figure out how to get a mixing glass made. And now we are today somewhat of a put together company. Like some things are more put together than others. So I'm pretty proud of what we've done, but like it's a never ending hill to climb ahead.
Yeah, but every business is like that. Like
I think so.
Yeah. No, they are. I promise you they are.
Yeah.
I'm not speaking from personal experience. But I know we've been talking for a while. I want to talk a little bit more about Bull in China because you're doing some cool stuff and you have some really amazing knowledge. I mean, you've shared these amazing stories along the way. I want to pick your brain a little bit about just bar tools in general. So, you talked about all this knowledge of spirits. You even dropped some back in Orion's Atoll, talking about these things, right? But why do quality bar tools matter as well? I mean, do I really need my red tip bar spoon to make the best old fashioned? Like, tell me.
Right.
Why should people jump into Bull in China, and why do they matter?
Yeah. I mean, this is a great question. Well, like from the start, there's the economics of your crap gear is going to fall apart really fast. And so you're going to have to constantly rebuy it. So, if you buy on price, you buy it twice, I believe is some phrase I heard from some old time person.
Like that.
Right. And so like just part of it is like the simple economics. I'm like, hey, do you want this like set of shaker tins that you're going to buy like 4 times over because it's going to keep falling apart? The little weights are just going to pop right off the bottom, right? Like they're going to fall apart. Or like, glassware, like it's going to shatter. If you're lucky, it'll do it right over your ice well mid drink, right? So
I love when that happens.
Yeah.
I love
it. You're going to lose the entire cocktail. You're going to make a mess. It's going to be a whole thing. Like, so maybe that'll happen for you too. So, that's going to happen 4 times over. Why don't you just spend like a little more on much nicer gear? So that's like just pure economics right there. But 2 is like a big part of how I've continued to craft the brand is basically just talking to bartenders. I mean, like, what are your pain points? What's the worst part of things like when you're bartending? And that could be a mix of like comfort. That could be a thing that slows you down, right? And so it's just like, those little red tip bar spoons, like those spoons, like the actual spirals are like jagged. It's like sharp edges.
They're absolutely so awful. They don't even fit your finger when you twirl them.
They don't
like
fit your finger. There's no real weight
functionality
to them. Yeah, there's no like proper weight to them too, so you don't get that counterweight. So like it's making you make a worse drink, right? In so many ways, it's making your life miserable as a bartender too, right? One thing we look at is like our jiggers, right? We're like, okay, well, you want to basically some jiggers fall apart too. The real piece of crap ones, or they don't have like measures on the inside. You know, like the classic
It drives me
old school jiggers.
crazy to pick up a jigger
Yeah,
that has no measurements on the inside,
you're
or
like,
like
what?
it's so old and faded that you can't tell if it's like a 1 ounce or 1.5 ounce or
Mhm.
2, and you're like,
Yeah.
it's fine.
I think that's right. So like we have like really deep grooves in our jiggers. We like very clearly both have the lines, and then we write out very clearly like 3/4 of an ounce, half an ounce, 1/4 of an ounce. 1/4 of an ounce, by the way, is one of the very first things that I started manufacturing, because someone's like, I don't know why certain jiggers don't have a 1/4 ounce line. And I was like, I don't know why they don't have a 1/4 ounce line. And they're like, can you fix that? I was like, I bet we can. And
Yeah,
so
and
like
not
one of the
everybody wants to pick up 2 Japanese jiggers with a 1.5 and a
yeah, and sit there
3/4
and
and
do
hold
like
them
the
with
whole
both their
thing and
hands.
like
Like,
yeah,
not
like
everybody
wouldn't
wants
it
to
be
do
nice to
that.
have one jigger that does that really well? So like, these nice proper like premium weights that like are very ergonomic in your hand. I will tell you with shakers in particular, I said premium weight there. I made the mistake of thinking really early that like the heavier you go, the better.
Mm.
And I'm like, no, that's like there's too light, but there's also way too heavy too. And so I learned
Just
that lesson as
dude,
well. Yeah.
market it as some gym equipment as well, man. Get a pump while you're on the
Exactly.
job, you know?
Yeah, the shake
Shaker
weight was
weight.
popular.
Shaker weight. Right. So like
No,
we spent
like
a lot of time. Yeah. Sorry, go
you're
ahead.
100% right. Like, I mean, shaking KD ice, right? Cold draft ice with a heavy shaker
Mhm.
tin, and you're in a busy bar. Like, I'm going to be honest, I don't think there's enough ice or heating packs in the world as a 35-year-old man that can save me for 5 shifts a week. It's just not going
Right.
to happen. Like, I need
Yeah.
the lightweight stuff sometimes.
You
Like,
just need that right, and then there's a certain pop that people always like used to tell me about. They're like, look at my old Caricos. They're like, see the way it just like popped like really well. And they're like, that's that seal that I want. So trying to find, it's not just the weight, it's the seal, which goes into the shape, which goes into the gauge of the metal too. Like, and so it's like trying to find all these balances of like, what do I like about it? Taking your favorite elements from like every single thing, where it's like, yeah, that's cool. So how do I get like the pop of the Carico, but like a tiny bit more weight than that too, but also like a 360 welded bottom, because like that's really important. And like, like some of these more problems like either do or don't have. So we finally came together, and it took me a lot. Plus I went to some of my more like super critical bartender friends and just was like, would you just gauge my shaker, please? And I used to just get samples, like 8, 10 at a time, and just like sit there, and we'd go to the bar and we would just like dry shake, wet shake, dry shake, wet shake, and just like go through all of them. And we kept refining and refining until like right now we found what I think is the single best shaker on the market for all these reasons I just said, right? It's like medium plus weight with like the perfect seal that just pops just the right way with 360 welded bottoms. Like that's it. That's the perfect one. So we started basing all of our main shakers off this one, like that is the silver, like the brush steel, right? And so like I don't know, that's been such a huge thing for us. Where I'm like, oh, I'm like really proud of what we're doing with those things.
Mhm.
And then there's like smaller things too. I'm like trying to look around, my little office here. And I'm just like,
I love it.
getting like here's a big thing, right? You see this right here. So like this is for one thicker gauge on this fine mesh strainer. So like that in
Oh, yeah.
itself makes it a lot sturdier. It has a nice weight to it too. But when you're sitting there like pounding against your like trying to get that pulp through. So one, it's bigger. So we want to be able to not get stuck. We're making 2 drinks at once. We don't want to get stuck with the little tiny ones, which are
Oh,
which are
yeah.
great for one drink or like a home bartend. But if you're doing speed and you're doing these cocktails, like we want that big old cup. Like that's a big old cup.
Yeah. Well, how about also how many times does the handle
Yeah,
come
just pop right
unwelded
off.
from the actual basket and the cone, and then you have tweezers and
Exactly.
and a double strainer that doesn't actually strain a drink. Like,
Totally accurate. So
it's
for
awful.
one, we thickened the gauge, which made it better. But even that wasn't quite. I'm trying to look for like an older one we have. When we first started, it's just like 2 prongs that just like touched here, and so it was better. But like if you tried hard enough, you can still break them. Now look at what we did. We extended that bot. It's like the smallest difference. It doesn't cost any more to make it this way. Like, you just have to custom mass the factory to make it this way, right? And then you have this much better solder point, and like these will never break now. I don't have to worry about that issue ever again. So all of a sudden we've solved this issue. It took me 3 or 4 tries to get to this point, but this is the Kaizen, if you will, the constant unrelenting improvement that we just like always find some little way to do. Like
It will
even
never stop.
recently, yeah, even recently we updated just like our teardrop bar spoons, because I found like a slightly thicker, denser spiral, right? So like a little tighter weave. Also, but I still wanted the soft feel too. You should see like the spoon samples I got, trying to sift through like a bunch of spoon samples and try and like take it.
I hope they just sent
So-
you a box with like 50 different spoons, and you had to go
Like,
through
go nuts.
like no markings, no measurements. You're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
sipping through
Good luck.
spoons.
right? So I'm doing that, and so we did it, and so not only that, one of the cool things about this from this factory is like the weave a little tighter, and like I love how it just feels in your hand, but it also added 2 grams of weight. 2 grams. We went from like 35 to 37 grams. Okay, this is almost imperceptible to the human body, but you start
It's not
stirring
though.
it. And you can tell the difference. You go, oh my God, this is the perfect spoon again, too. It's like these little baby details where I'm like, oh, I love stirring with it. This feels so
Well, that's the
good.
thing. Like most
Yeah.
people don't realize, like average guests sitting at the bar, how often we use those spoons. Like
Yeah.
on a busy night, I'm using that same spoon or same 2 spoons, a couple hundred, maybe 1,000 times in a really busy bar. Like I'm touching that every single day, 5 days a week, 10 hours a day. Like I'm gonna know the exact weight of my spoon in my bar bag or at my bar.
Mm-hmm.
2 grams of difference. It's like a pee
Mm-hmm.
under. It's like a pee under 10
Mm-hmm.
mattresses. I'm
There
gonna
you
know
go.
For my
immediately.
princess. Yeah, for my pretty
Yeah.
princess. Yeah.
I know what's going on.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So those are,
Oh.
I'm just trying, those are some of the examples. You know, there's little stuff. We put like a hole in the handle of one of our strainers because one of my friends was like, hey, I need to hang this at my station. And there's no hole in the handle. And I was like, we could definitely put that on the next batch. So sure enough, like next batch comes along, and now all of our, we call them like deluxe antique style strainers, they all have holes. All my regular Hawthorne strainers, they all have little holes there. Like the juleps, they all have holes, like obviously. So it's just like constant details where it's just like finding ways to improve and then asking people and just continuing to ask, like,
Now
what
you
makes
just
your
need to
life better?
start selling me the hooks to hang them on behind my bar that I
There
can
you go.
install
Mm.
magnet ones underneath, regular
Oh
ones that
my
I can just
God. Now we're
look at
talking.
that. All right, that's free.
Okay.
It's all yours.
Thank you.
All right. We do have a community question that I want to ask before we get to our final question here for the episode.
Oh boy. Okay.
We love it. We have an amazing community on Discord. They have some great questions, and I think this is right up your alley. So, community question for you. Why do bars like Death & Co. use pint glasses to stir their cocktails, and where do you find that perfect balance of form and function for most cocktail bars? It's a real thing.
Oh yeah. So I think that one in particular is a great question. One, because we did a collab with Death & Co. We still have our Death & Co. mixing glass. And so like I just assumed that they were using our collab glass in the bars, right? And so I show up and I go back to New York and I go to the East Village and I'm going to check it out. And sure enough, just as this community question is asking, they were just sitting there with their pint glasses, just stirring away, right? And I was like, oh my goodness. And so I asked later, I forget who I asked. Maybe I just asked the bartender that was working. And she was like, well, I mean, if you're at a high enough level of skill, you can kind of use whatever's thrown your way. And so like for us, I think it was like, it's probably a mix of like, they've all been bartending for so many years. And back to the cost, they were just like, this is so cost effective to use this way. I think that's the mindset that goes there.
So I'll tell you, I'll give you a little insight there before we
I was
talk
like,
about
speaking
the
from
balance.
Death & Co. Denver over here, tell us more. Yeah.
Two kind of things that tip into this. One, absolutely cost, right? A pint glass is what? 13 cents, maybe 17 cents with the world we live in now.
You could break one every single night. You probably
the amount of bar
yeah.
backs that shatter them, or me putting them away at my bar back. Like it's really hard in a high volume restaurant, especially a service well, to crank those.
Yeah.
Perfect for private events, perfect for smaller, like intimate things, like, but it's really hard, like, especially if you're looking at the numbers in the world we live in now. Like, it doesn't matter how gorgeous or how functional they are, like 17 cents is hard to beat.
It's less than even my best wholesale rates. Yeah, it's still pretty good.
And then when you look at a pint glass, this is what they told us. Like, this is kind of like a peek behind the curtain, right? In a pint glass using cold draft ice, right? You drop 3 whole cubes in, you take 2 cubes, you crack them with your ice tapper, you drop it in, it perfectly fills. And then if you're stirring a single cocktail in there, you drop 1 more cold draft on top. So 3-2-1 rules. It's the perfect stirring balance of ice to dilution for a quick serve. And it was like, I'm not mad about that being consistent for every single person that works behind that bar, doing it the exact same way every single night for thousands of cocktails in a compendium. It's not bad science to dial it in like that. But
yeah,
I was like, okay, that's real math. Like, it's I can't find a logic against it, you know?
Yeah. Okay, that's pretty. I think you answered that question better than I did, so I'm happy with that one. That's pretty good. Now, maybe can I ask a question on the question now?
You have to now.
How do we feel? Because this is the next project that I'm working on, and I've gotten a lot of requests. I want to hear how you guys feel about this. The double-walled metal mixers. Okay.
I love this. I love that this is your question, because whenever our bartender in our Discord community asked this question, that came up right after, and it started this whole like thread of conversations talking about different types of mixing tins. I love them. I know I'm probably in the minority of metal tins, but they're not going to break. And once you get used to it, like once you get past that learning curve of like, okay, this is what my dilution is, it's no different than that bar spoon that you use a couple hundred times a shift to make old fashions. It's you get used to it, and it's just an extension. Plus, you can make 4 of them at a time. You can make 4 old fashions in one of
You're
those
right.
things, as opposed
Way
to
more
maybe
space than a
2
pint
in a
glass. Yeah.
Yari. Like
Yeah. So
it's
okay.
there. It's
Yeah.
there.
We're coming out with one, and so and the one that like added detail, because one thing I heard is that they can be a bit of a slip and slide sometimes because the condensation on the metal can happen. The double walled are much better than the single walled ones. That's very certainly, but like still like
1000%.
but still it's a little mess. So I'm putting a silicone rubber grip on the bottom, which I hope people like a lot. I
I've
think that's
never
like a
seen
nice
that.
little touch. Yeah, well, like I said, just a little bit of that bull in China touch, that little something extra. Like if I come out with something like that, it's like it's got to be a little special. It can't just be the same thing that's already on the market. So that's the idea there. So a little sneak peek for you and everyone who's listening to us. That's
Look
what's
at
coming
that.
down the pipe.
I
Yeah.
do like that. I wonder, I don't even know if this is worth it, but you know how like you have the like the coffee urns in a restaurant, and it has like that little tiny strip that shows you how much is in your actual like container, how much is remaining. Like it says like, oh, there's like a liter left, a half liter or whatever. I wonder if it's worth having a slit down the side that you can see how much liquid is inside your
Yeah.
metal one, because you can't just eyeball it. And even looking
Yeah.
down, it's so dark in there, especially in a
Right.
sexy cocktail bar. I
Oh
don't
man, I
know.
looked at that on a jigger before. Like I saw this like really big jigger, and it had exactly what you're describing down the side.
Yeah, but I don't need that for a jigger. It's so small and
No, you really
contained.
don't. Yeah,
Like,
but that's a really fun idea. I wonder if it's possible.
I
Okay.
don't know. I don't know if it's
Wow.
worth it. You
Wow.
know, like,
Yeah, and if it's already dark, I don't know if you can like even see that little slit, but I still like it. I'll ask if it's possible.
I don't know. Maybe
See, this is how we get
maybe
better.
our
This is how we can always
listeners will
improve.
jump into the comments and they'll tell us
Yeah.
what they think. That's what we want.
Yeah.
Hell
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
right.
So was that our last question? We have another question
We have
now.
a final question for you. Last question.
Okay.
We ask every guest that comes on the show, what's your favorite shift you've ever worked?
Oh boy. Okay. Favorite shift I've ever worked. Okay. I'm torn here, but just to keep to one of my times with when I was bussing and barbacking and doing this. So there was a satellite so back in Whiskey Blue, there was like a lobby bar, and it was just one bartender and one bar back, and that was me and this girl Lindsay, who was very gorgeous, right? And so I say that because so many men just like fawned over her, right? And there was one point where this like guy who clearly like had money and wanted to, I don't know, impress her with it, right? Left her $1,000 tip, right?
Nice.
And me being a kid, not understanding like what that meant or like how that works, I was like, awesome, I get 20% of that, right? Like, because the barback gets paid out 20%. And like, she just looked at me like I was like so dumb. And then I like
Cold-blooded, dude. That's cold-blooded, man.
Savage.
right? And so I for some reason, like just like I'm always surprised at how ignorant I can be, even when I think I'm not, and just like not getting that. I wasn't supposed to get that $200. I would like to say that she did give me that $200, but I probably shouldn't have taken it. I probably should have realized what was going on.
No,
But
you're
no.
completely well within your rights to take the $200. Share the
Okay.
wealth. I literally know a bartender that it caused a dispute within the group because a girl got a $1,000 tip, and there was a lot of dispute on to whether or not she should share it, because I understand there are times where a patron is giving somebody a tip specifically for them, and I totally understand it's very context based. There was a guy that was getting married, and patron gave the guy like a $500 tip for him and his wife for his wedding. That one right there, whether it was a guy or girl getting married, I would say you don't need to split that one. That's a very specific tip going to the person for their wedding. That was just a flex tip. She didn't have to share. I get it. That was her tip. But the nice thing to do would be to share. You were not wrong to
Mhm.
take that.
Okay. Well,
if somebody gave me $1,000 because I was hot, I'm tipping out the bar back, the dishwasher. I mean, I don't have to worry about that ever happening to me, but you understand what I'm saying. So.
Hypothetically speaking, that's the right thing to
I
do.
think it's relative too, right? Like it's so situational, like everything. It's like, you know what? Maybe I also had a really good night on top of that, and I made like $2,000 tonight. Here's $200 for you for being my bar back, right?
Yeah.
Or like, hey, you know what? It's been dead season. I haven't made any money all week. That $1,000 hits
hasn't made
a
any money.
lot.
All right,
hits
Discord,
a lot harder.
Discord
maybe
chat,
here's $50 bar back.
I want to talk about this in the Discord. I'm in there. Should she have given out any money or not? Is that a tip that should be shared, or is that a solo tip? I want to know.
Yeah,
I love it. This is
great
getting
question.
saucy in here. I love it.
Yeah. So that was just a fun one. I mean, I have I'm sure better stories than that, but I'm glad we can.
I love that that's
with that one.
I love that that's the first one that comes to mind.
Remember, like, the highlights of being a bar back, which really the highlights were just probably, again, speaking as a 20-year-old kid, was just like working with an awesome, attractive crew that you're just like, I'm literally just like grabbing garbage and it's dripping all over me. But like everyone here is really attractive, right? Like,
apparently, like $1,000 worth of attractiveness. Yeah,
so attractive. Yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
We asked this question
Go off on
because
that tangent. That one hit close to home.
Yeah.
We asked this question because, you know, regardless of where you work or what city or what job you have, like we all have these common threads that kind of tie us. And literally just based on that conversation we had after, we all have thoughts and opinions about this, but we've all had that one moment where someone has tipped that money, or you have to share something with a coworker. And like, it doesn't matter where you work, anywhere in the world, those things are happening, and we all have that interconnectivity about it. So like, that's the cool thing about the hospitality industry.
And why that's right. Now, do I get to ask you guys a question?
I feel like you have to. Like every time I'm like, yeah, let's hit it.
Now that I'm realizing that this is like the Bardtenders, and we've got our little, you know, our 20-sided dice going on over here. The question is this: how do you guys feel about Matt Dinneman as a writer? Do you read his stuff? Do you like his stuff? Because I say this because I'm currently reading one of his books right now.
Dungeon Crawler Carl?
Well, I just finished Dungeon Crawler Carl, most of it. There's a new one that just came out. I'm trying a different one called Dominion of Blades. Do you guys dabble? How do you feel about that?
Okay, so you're like the third or fourth person here within the last few months that has told me I need to read Dungeon Carl.
You really do, but yes.
Yeah. Well, and people have told me about it. I'm like, that does not sound like my type of fantasy. And they're like, no, Michael, trust me, you will love it. I'm like, okay, fine. I've had that hit with me enough times, so I will try it out, but I've not read anything of his at this point in time.
So I'll tell you this: I got the entire collection for Christmas as a gift, right? And because I have a 2-year-old, I have not opened the book yet.
Dude, what about when your internet was out for 5 days? You didn't open the book one time, John? Come on, dude, you're slacking. What are you doing? Taking care of your family? Nobody told you to have.
You know what? I messed up, Mike. It's on me. I could have read a book. Instead, I slept like a heathen. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I got an extra 2 hours of sleep a night. That's on me. What was
disappointing? Absolutely disappointing.
I get that a lot.
But I'm glad you brought it up. So obviously you're a fan of his, though.
Yeah, I think it's pretty fun. I think you will like it. That's why I just wanted to bring it up to see.
No, I appreciate you doing it because it's people have recommended it enough to me now at this point in time. I'm like, okay, I have to check it out. Because to be honest with you, I haven't read fantasy for quite a while. I've dabbled more into sci-fi, but I read fantasy all throughout high school and early college and stuff. So I kind of moved away from that. But after rediscovering Dungeons and Dragons, or I guess truly discovering it for the first time here in the last 3 to 4 years. It might be time to delve back into that.
Here's what I love.
Yeah.
I walk into the bookstore and there's just nerd culture everywhere now. There's D&D, there's tabletop games more than ever before. There's people walking around buying Legos as adults, and like everyone's just cool with it. It makes me so happy that like these things are finally out in the open and we get to just be cool nerds.
That makes you happy?
Like dunking on us and shoving us in lockers.
Dude, see, I liked it better when it was the subculture, man. When we were the under a cult class, man, and now it's.
Tell me about that band you went to before they were popular.
Everybody likes it. No, I'm just kidding.
You know,
I'm glad it's
funny saying too, because again, like Apple TV, I'm sitting there watching Apple TV, and I'm like watching previews for a show, and I'm like, I swear I know this plot, and it's like some book, you know, trilogy that I read before that I can't believe, like Silo. I don't know if you've seen that, Murderbot, all these things like that. So you're not lying. It's definitely coming into like this total pop culture world on like major mainstream, you know, whatever I'm saying, programs, budgets. Yeah. So
I mean, this is a whole
Yeah.
diatribe, right? But like,
yeah.
you're seeing this thing. We're like, okay, how many original things like exist out there, right? So like, they took books, turned them into movies. They're taking video games and turning them into movies. You're
They
seeing
took movies and turned them into different movies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've
That
done
were
that
the
many
same
times.
movies, but
Yep.
they were just
That's the
worse.
lazy
Yeah,
route.
exactly. Yeah.
And now you're seeing like podcasts like Dungeons and Dragons podcast being made into animated shorts on Amazon with Critical Role and things. So like you're
Yeah.
starting to
Oh,
see
dude.
these like new forms of media constantly getting recycled or getting used for the first time. So it's neat to
Yes.
kind of watch all this. Like soon we'll probably see a TikTok dance made into a 2-hour movie. It's like it's gonna happen.
Oh, please, come on, dude. Come on. Don't make me think about that. No, I mean that I don't even know who directed it or what studio it came out of, but that Dungeons and Dragons movie that came out not too long ago.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't
Yeah.
the most cinematic, most brilliant. I loved it. I laughed my ass off. I genuinely, I thought they did a great job with it. And it
It's
is
great.
cool that we get to see some of that culture really start to become more accepted or just, I guess, more mainstream because, there's more money that goes into it. So more content that we get to enjoy. So,
Yeah. And you can
still
still
not
wear the shirt
Sorry, go on.
before everyone else did. You could still wear the shirt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mike,
Get
you
the
can do it.
reference
Yeah,
if you want
but did
yeah.
you read the book? Have you played Curse of
Exactly.
Strahd though? Name 5
Exactly.
D&D monsters. All right. Yeah, exactly. I'll be that guy.
I love you, Mike. All right. End of the episode here. We like to do some shout outs. So Matan, we want to throw it to you first. Where can people find you? Where can they find Bull in China? Give us a little bit more here.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, come to our website. That's my favorite place to get people to come. It's the most exciting experience. Oh, it's right there. BullinChinaPDX.com. So for sure, if you want to buy some stuff, come to our site. If you want to get a discount code, maybe I'll talk to you guys and we'll do a discount code just
there you go.
for your listeners. So maybe we'll do something like that. Off
love
scene.
that.
And then Instagram, we have a beautiful Instagram. I love my content creators. They're great. It's just at Bull in China. So come check us out. You'll see some of these beautiful things. I didn't even talk about so many of these things that we do because I got really distracted by that niche background story. But yeah,
we could have talked for 3 hours and we still wouldn't have covered it. Like it's a whole thing.
So yeah, follow us.
That's
on Instagram,
John's fault. He's the
please.
host, man. Don't beat yourself up about it.
We're having a good time. I'm so sorry.
I am
we were.
kidding. I had a great time too. I'm just messing with you.
Yeah. So okay, so those are my favorites. If you want to be my friend, you can like be my friend. I don't know if you have my personal Instagram, but it's just Matan.
I'm ready.
Wow, he's on
I'm
top of
ready.
it. Jeez. Okay. So if you want to be friends, you can do that too. And anything else you got there that I should know about? Maybe like a LinkedIn or something. I don't know what else you got there. Those are pretty good.
I didn't
Nah,
stalk you that
these are the
hard on
ones.
social media. You're good.
Yeah.
I want to
yeah.
see. I want to see you join our Discord, and I want to get into this $1,000 tip thing. I think
Oh,
we
yeah.
really need to explore this more because
I
I know
think
it's going to divide people. I know that.
I think it's definitely worth arguing about. For the record, I bar backed for that customer, right? So like I provided the service on that customer.
Maybe
too.
At
maybe
least
he thought
20%.
you were. Yeah, maybe he thought
20%
you
of
were
the
pretty
service.
hot
It was
too.
all
How
you.
does she know? Did he
Yeah.
explicitly say? Whatever. We'll get into it on Discord.
Now that you mention it, I don't think he did. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
you know what?
awesome,
It was probably your $1,000 tip that she took. That's what it was.
Mhm.
I think so.
And I was like,
Yep.
fine, I'll split it with you. Yeah.
She's not here to defend herself, so that's what it's It's canon. Mike, shout outs for you. What do you have for us?
Oh, let's shout out Herd Card Game. It was so much fun in January getting to go back and go to Dallas and get to meet all these incredible people. And I know that this connection is through Chandler from Herd Card Game. So, card game for service industry misfits. If you listen to the show, you know all about it. But definitely follow them, herdcardgame.com.
Yeah, check out our expansion pack. We got some of the coolest cards added to the game, heavily biased.
Yeah.
So, get after it.
What about you, John? You got any shout outs tonight?
I do. I have a shout out. It's for my favorite podcast. You're probably listening to it or watching it right now.
There it
It's
is.
called Bardtenders. You can check us out on social media at Bardtenders, or you can head to our website at www.bardtender.com. You can also reach out to us, send us an email, slide into those DMs. Here's a contact at bardtender.com. We want to do cool stuff with cool people, full stop, all the time. Share your stories, connect with us, come on the show and hang out. Whether you're doing an interview here like we did with Matan or roll some dice and play D&D. That's what we're here for. We love it. We love hanging out with all of you. And Matan, we loved hanging out with you tonight. So thanks for hanging out on the show. This was great.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
John, what else do we love?
Oh, Mike, I heard you love 5-star reviews.
I think it's 5 stars only.
And I did also hear that if you leave us a 5-star review and absolutely roast us, we'll read it in an episode.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, you can leave us a nice 5-star review, but we're not going to read it. If you want to talk some smack, we'll read that, but it's got to be 5 stars. We want to hear your worst 5-star review.
That's what we want. We're here for your worst 5-star review. Get after us. Oh, Matan, thank you for being on the show. True
Yeah, thanks for
pleasure.
joining us. It was a blast.
Yeah.
What a great time.
Thanks for having me.
Heck
It's been good.
You guys ready to clock out?
I think so.
should.
I think it's time.
Let's get the hell out of here. We'll see you guys next time.